Hello, 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 everybody. How are you all doing? Happy Thursday and welcome. Welcome to the Office Hour stream, my friends. I hope you're all doing well. I hope you're all having a wonderful week. My name, of course, is Nubbin Zink, and I am here on this wonderful Thursday to help you be a better streamer. And I am joined by my good friend Izzy Kento. Izzy Kento, we have selected to join me as a guest on this week's stream because of their unique knowledge and insights into our topic of the week, which is building and maintaining a community. Izzy, thank you so much for joining us on the show today. How are you doing?
Thank you so much for having me. I'm doing really well. How are you doing?
I am doing fantastic. I'm always super excited whenever Thursday rolls around and I get to talk about those things that I am super passionate about, which is, again, streaming, content creation, and helping you all be better at what we're all doing here. So, Izzy, tell us a little bit about yourself, please. How did you get started with content creation? What drove you to be a streamer? You know, what was your motivation to get started with all of this?
Yeah, so I started content creation maybe around 5-6 years ago. I actually used to do makeup, just like anime inspired makeup, but just like on a personal page. And I had a friend tell me about cosplay, and he was like, oh, you know, you can incorporate your makeup and your hair and everything like that into cosplay and dress up as these anime characters that you like so much. So I ended up getting into cosplay, and at some point I kind of felt like I had a really great connection with my community on Instagram and Twitter and such, but I felt like from watching Twitch streams, it was a bit more personal and you got to connect on a different level through streaming. And so that's why I decided I really want to stream. Like, I really want to start connecting more with the people that support me, connecting more with other creators and everything like that. And so I maybe started around like 2 years ago. This year I'm a lot more consistent than past years, but yeah, I'm still a streamer. I'm still here.
Heck yeah. And I mean, you know, to that speaks to, I think, the whole idea of resilience. Resilience is one of those things that I think is not talked about enough when it comes to, you know, the skills that it takes to make it in content creation, whatever making it means for anybody. There's one comment in the chat already. Follows don't mean much if the people don't stick around. Jackie K. That is a much more insightful comment than you can imagine, because it keys us up perfectly into our topic this week, which is the importance of community and community building skills when it comes to content creation. Izzy, to your point, streaming is very personal. It's it's live interaction, right? That's one thing that I think a lot of new streamers maybe don't quite understand the nuance of, which is when you are live, you are there. You are there in person. Like, this is you interacting live with your audience. And one key for getting people to stick around, and that's why, you know, I understand that the notification's a little bit clickbaity, but there's a reason for it, which is that if you understand how to build a community, if you understand how to take advantage of that first impression, right? First impressions are everything. That first impression when somebody new comes into your chat and says, hi, I don't know what's happening here. I'm new. What's going on? To build something that is welcoming and inclusive and makes people feel like they belong is so, so crucial in your early stages of content creation. Izzy, tell us a little bit, when you got started, what was that experience like for you? Did you already have a lot of sort of knowledge ahead of time of like, oh, these are the things I need to do? Or did you just kind of, like most people, throw yourself into it and figure it out as you went along?
The latter. And I laugh because I still feel like I don't know what I'm doing. But
that's fair.
Yeah. But I think that because like I said, I was doing just on my personal page, just makeup. And so when my friend, who is a kind of like a bigger creator, asked me to start my cosplay page, and then I started my Twitch and everything like that. I didn't know anything about content creation, like I
Mhm.
was just like, oh, okay, I'm just gonna post my looks, I'm just gonna play some games on stream, da da da. But I did always know that I wanted to build community, and that community was important. I at least always knew that, because of the fact that I grew up in I grew up with like community taking care of me and me taking care of community, and you know things of that nature. And so that was already kind of embedded in my personal politic. So for me, I feel like it was a little bit more organic, and it was like a little easier. Like I didn't think too much on it, because it was already something that was embedded within me, was we're going to do this because we're going to create a community. And when I had started content creation, it was maybe like 6 to 8 months before, or I would say like maybe 6 months before the pandemic hit. And so then I was a lot more focused around creating community, because I couldn't see anybody, like
Mhm.
we were on lockdown. And so what else do we do? We're social creatures. So I was like, you know what? That was when I started becoming more involved in streaming, especially because I wanted to create that community, and I really felt like I already kind of had the soft skills, so to speak, in order to do that. Now, as a creative and as a creator, that's a whole other thing. And I still, like I said, I feel like I don't know what I'm doing. So,
I mean, I think that it is safe to say that like everybody who finds their way to content creation, like it is very much a position that a lot of people are, we're all making it up as we go along, right? And at the end of the day, like we are as newer content creators. I mean, 5 to 6 years. That's forever in internet time. But as newer generations of content creators, enter the space,
mhm.
they are very much building on the practices of those who came before them, right? It's all we're all building off of the things that we've seen other people build, and iterating on it and improving on it, and trying to find the next thing. And I think that like community practice is one of those things that if people have been paying attention to content creation, even just as a consumer, on the consumer side, you've seen the emphasis of community grow into something that channels of all sizes engage in. I think I don't know if there's any other super old people like me in the chat, but if you remember, like, say, the early days of Rooster Teeth, rest in peace, they were just putting videos out onto the internet. That was it. That was, they were very much just a broadcast channel. They made a video, uploaded it, people watched it, that was it. And it wasn't until much later that they started to really embrace the community aspect of their channel, which was it manifested itself in having a Discord server, hosting conventions, hosting meetups, holding panels, stuff like that. And so it's really interesting to see that I think that a lot of new streamers, when they just get started with content creation, one of the things that gets asked is, when is it time for me to start my Discord server? Like, like at what point should I be starting my Discord server? And from a very practical perspective, and feel free to disagree with me, Izzy, but I don't think there is too early for you to start your Discord server. I think that if before your first stream, you should have your Discord server set up.
Yeah, I was gonna say, before you even finish that question,
Yeah.
your Discord should already be set up.
Yeah, exactly. If you are already streaming and asking yourself, oh, when should I set up my Discord server? You're already too late.
Boop.
Yep, do it
Yeah,
right
go
now.
ahead.
Because what a Discord server represents is giving your community a place to congregate, right? That is what a Discord server really represents. Is it's a place for your community to congregate, and it is a place for people to connect with you as the creator outside of your Twitch stream, your YouTube stream, wherever you might be live. And there really isn't too early, I don't think. I think that, yeah, I think that it really is, before you even start streaming, you should have something.
You could, yeah. I mean, I don't know, because I already kind of had a platform, and then I moved into streaming, so I was already hounded by a lot of people to start a Discord, and I actually didn't start it until I started streaming. But yeah, I had one because I was in other people's, but I didn't really start like my own, because I'm gonna be honest, Discord was kind of a lot.
Yeah,
me.
Sure.
Like, it still is. There's so much in there, and there's so much that you can do, that I'm just like, oh my gosh, I just got like overwhelmed. But yeah, I absolutely agree. I think that as soon as you decide that you want to begin to build up your platform, at any point in time, just go ahead and create that Discord. I tell my friends who are thinking about streaming, you need to start a Discord. Like, start that now, and then worry about whenever you're going to stream. But yeah, my advice is usually always start that Discord. Like, as soon as you're asking that question, that's already time. That's when you know. The answer is yes. It's always going to be yes. Go ahead, do it.
Exactly. Now, you brought up the concept of taking care of your community. And I think that this means different things to different communities. Obviously, every community is going to be different, and your community is going to be different from my community in some ways. You know, some may be more different than others. What does taking care of your community mean to you in the most general of terms, and then maybe talk about some specifics of like things that you do specifically to make your community feel that sense of belonging?
Yeah, so for me, taking care of my community means I am really big on mental health and overall wellness. And so I created, I mean, how do I say it? Because I didn't start it, right? Like, there have been people doing this before me, but I started it on my page, Mental Health Mondays. So every Monday we speak on, like setting boundaries, using coping skills, etc. This past Monday, we just talked about coping skills. And then I also do streams where I did a stream for open enrollment for insurance, teaching people like what is a deductible, what's a copay, what's coinsurance, etc. Teaching like life skills. And for me, that's me giving back and taking care of my community who really holds space for me. Is I want to create a space for you, which specifically is the Mental Health Mondays, for you to go in and speak on, life. Like, sometimes people come in and they say like, yeah, I don't really have people around that I can just talk to so openly and candidly like this. And so for me, that's what it looks like. We also, in my Discord, I have like, I purposely made tabs of positive affirmations. So people go in there, and when you're feeling low, just go through the positive affirmations tab. There's a vent here tab. There's an anime watch club tab. So we go and we watch anime or we watch movies together. We just watched a Goofy movie the other day.
Oh God, such a good film. Oh man,
it's so good. It's one of my all-time favorites, and we were talking about how it was one of my favorites. And so I was like, you know what? I was streaming actually, and I was like, let's go to the Discord. Let's go watch a Goofy movie.
Dude, I all right. Little tangent. There's a TikTok pop punk band that does like pop punk covers of like, popular songs, and I found their cover of Eye to Eye on like Spotify. It's so good.
I'm
And
gonna need that.
I will send it to you right after this. Don't worry. But, oh my God. Anyways, eye to eye. People who didn't grow up with a Goofy movie don't know how hard Eye to Eye slaps, and that is like that is a strong contender for one of Disney's best songs. Anyways,
Yes, absolutely. Look.
oh my God, it's
this
so
could
good.
turn into
It's
a
so
Goofy
good.
movie stream.
Oh yeah. Anyways,
Yes, I think it has one of the best soundtracks. Just saying. So, yeah. So that's what was happening. I forgot how it even got brought up, but like, I was going off about the movie, and then I was like, you know what? Let's go to the Discord. So we hopped off Twitch, went to the Discord, and in a way, I talk a lot about inner child healing, and so I do a lot that would cater to everyone's inner child. You know, like we watch a lot of like we watched Pokemon before, we watched, you know, Disney movies, we watched we're doing a Ghibli series right now. Yeah, so for me, it's mostly creating and holding space in certain pockets of time dedicated for my community to feel like nurtured and supported and accepted and, you know, heard and valued. So that's how I take care of my community.
Yeah, that's awesome. And like, is this time that you are explicitly setting aside outside of your regular streaming schedule to make sure that you're connecting? Like, do you count this as part of like the lump sum stream time?
No, I count it as separate. So when I do like, what is it, like typical streaming, it's like I'm usually streaming like games, or I'm doing like a just chatting, you know, like we'll rate anime characters or something like that, you know. But especially time in the Discord, which is why I tell everyone you should be creating a Discord immediately. That is specifically dedicated to my peeps. You know, like I go in there and in the general chat, I'll at everyone and I'll be like, hey, tell me about your day. Tell me how your day's going. Tell me a fun fact, everything of that nature. I just really want to be intentional about the way I move with my community. I want them to know that, you know, there is Isabel, Izzy, the streamer who streams and does this, and then there's Izzy right here, the streamer who you can connect with on a more personal level, because there's the part of me that is more like a bit censored when I do more of like general streams, just because like I don't know how everyone's gonna take me, and you know, I'm still learning how to come out of my shell in a sense, and then there's a little bit more of the real part, right? Yeah, so I definitely make sure that I set aside time specifically for the community and to dedicate to the community. And like I said, for me, community was always a big deal. So it just kind of naturally happens. Like, I didn't even think about it like that until you said it. I was like, oh, wait, yeah, he's right. Like, I actually do set aside like specific time, like, because like I just think like, oh, I haven't talked to y'all in a while. Let me go in my Discord. You know, like, oh, I haven't Let's talk about this. I haven't done a mental health Monday in a while. Let's talk. So yeah, I do it with them in mind, and I'm like, oh, I want to hear about how your day is. I want to know how you're doing. I want to know what you're struggling with, and I want to know if there's any like way that I can help. How can I be of service? Typical Virgo, but yeah.
I wouldn't know. Apparently, I'm a quintessential Aquarius, so you know. I always love that reaction right there. So, I think that setting aside time makes so much sense in the world, right? Because it's, you know, and I have people in my life who hate this term, but it's that intentionality, right? It is the intentionality of setting aside time to say, hey, this is my time to make sure that I am interacting, that I'm being present, that I'm here with you to you know, talk and interact and go through go through life together, really is what it is. And I wanted to pause real quick, just to say, hey, chat, if you're watching this and you have questions for us, please, I am monitoring it. If you have questions for us, please do feel free to throw them in the chat. I should have said this earlier. I was too excited to get into the topic. So sometimes I forget things. That's on ADHD. So if you have questions for us specifically that we can help advise you on, the chat is a great place to put it. We are focused on community building here. So if you have questions about things like, this doesn't work on my Streamlabs, head over to our Discord, discord.gg/stream, or use command !support to get linked to that, and our CX team will be able to help you out with that. They are so much smarter than me when it comes to all of those highly technical things. So now that that's out of the way, I wanted to, and I think I suspect that this might be something that you're doing, again, kind of without even realizing it, but I want to highlight the importance of, and I wrote it in my notes here in all caps, the importance of leaning in. As you were telling me that story about, we were doing something else entirely, and then somehow we started talking about the Goofy movie, and boom, we decided, forget it, we're just gonna go watch the Goofy movie. Like, let's all go do this together as a community. And I think that is one of those things that live content has over static content in a way that a lot of people probably don't truly appreciate, which is, hey, if your community, if your chat is acting up and making inside jokes and there's memes happening in your chat, that is something to lean into. That is something not to, obviously boundaries are important, and we're going to get into that. But if people are cracking jokes and there's like this inside joke starting to form, lean into it, right? Everybody loves feeling that sense of belonging. And to what you said earlier, I think that you're 100% right, that the pandemic definitely made it even stronger, seeking out community online. And the ability to feel like you belong as a part of something is what keeps people coming back. It is that feeling of innate, inherent connection to your stream, your content, your Discord, whatever, that really keeps people coming back for more. And that's why, again, the clickbaity notification of how do you get more viewers? You help people feel a sense of belonging. You give people something that they can't get elsewhere, say from like Netflix or Hulu or whatever, is that sense of belonging, that sense of connection that you're not going to get just by watching live action Avatar: The Last Airbender on your couch. I haven't seen it. Don't come for me. And so it's highlighting the importance of leaning in. Now, on the flip side of that coin, I said we'd go back to boundaries. How do you prevent community from steamrolling what you want to do as a streamer?
Ooh. I don't have boundaries, so I don't. No, I'm just kidding. It's very interesting. I feel like they just kind of go along with whatever I do. Mm-hmm. So I haven't really had much of an experience of any kind of tension there. Because I think that luckily, maybe, my community tend to hop around from one thing to the next, to the next, to the next, just like I do. Like, we have very short attention spans, it seems. So, literally, I will start a stream trying to play Genshin, and this actually happened the other week. And we ended up going through like anime characters and rating them on scales of like 1 to 10, and then I ended up doing a tier list of like my favorite cereals, like all in the same stream. Yeah, all
That's
in the
amazing.
same stream. And so it's just kind of like I'll just have an idea and I'll just be like, yeah, let's just do this. Yeah, let's just do this. And then they just kind of go along with it. I know that there are, so I think when I first started streaming, I was a little bit more worried about, like, what am I going to do in the stream? You know, like, do I do what I want to do, or do I do what the community wants me to do? And sometimes I'll ask and I'll be like, hey, what do y'all want to see me play today? But then I remind them this is a dictatorship. So if I don't like the answer, I'm not going to. I'm just not going to do it. But I think that came with experience of already being a creator and then going into streaming, because that is something that I more so struggled with when I was mainly on Instagram doing cosplay. I would do more cosplays that my community wanted to see, and oftentimes that tended to be from more like popular shonen in anime, and certain series, right, that maybe I wasn't even that big of a fan of. And for some time, what it did was it created this like confusion within me, and it didn't feel right for me. Like, I don't know exactly how to explain your gut feel, like how you feel on the inside about what it is that you're doing, but I didn't feel all that well because I was like, I'm being dragged around by other people.
Yeah.
You know, like, this isn't necessarily what I want to do, it's more what they want me to do. But I love them so much, so I want to give that to them. But there was a point where it was like, actually, Izzy, they also, just like you love and support them and etc., it goes the other way around. Like, they are here for you. So whatever it is that you want to do, your community will naturally come in and gravitate towards you. But it took me a while to learn that. It took me maybe like a year or two out of the 5 that I've been doing this to really let that sink in, because I think that creators, and I'm not going to speak for every creator, but I know quite a few, and myself at some point had felt like, if I don't listen to the community, they're going to leave me. And then I went to therapy and I worked on my
it's useful for everyone.
So after I worked on that, I was like, okay, well, then leave. No.
Amazing.
But I think that, you know, yeah, we can kind of get into that whole, like, allowing certain things to happen, or doing certain things that maybe we don't necessarily want to do, but because, like, the community wants us to do it. And I think there is a balance. So I do, like I said, I will stream certain games that my community wants me to stream. But then there are some days where I give the option, and then like 2 seconds later, I'm like, actually, I kind of just want to do this. So then I'll do that. You have to, how do I say this? I speak like an intuitive person, but it's more on intuition. Like, you kind of have to, and discernment, practice building that as well as a creator. That's going to help so much. But learning to discern and decipher when you're going to lean into that, or when you're going to lean more into yourself, into the community, into yourself.
Yeah. And I think no. And I think that feeling is, you nailed that perfectly, of, and I will speak for a lot of creators, which is, I think in most content creators' journeys, there comes a time where all of a sudden you feel like you're not being true to yourself anymore, in a way. Whether that's, for me, it was continuing to play a game that I didn't want to play anymore, for the sake of keeping people around. And, you know, when it came time for me to say, okay, I'm so sick of this. I don't want to play this game anymore. I want to go do something else. I want to go do something that I'm going to have fun with, that I'm going to be excited about, when I'm streaming I think at this point I was streaming 4 days a week. I want to go do something that I'm excited to do. And it is difficult having to make that decision when it feels like your needs are intrinsically opposed to those of some members of your community. Now, I will emphasize that I think, and feel free to, say if you've had a different experience, but I think that oftentimes a lot of this is driven by a small handful of very vocal people, as opposed to the majority of your community wants you to do a certain thing. And I think being able to discern when it's one versus the other helps you to make those decisions a little bit easier, right? Mm-hmm. If it's, because I think anybody who has had a bit of a viewership grow up, will find that there is oftentimes a couple people who will come in and be like, wow, you're playing this game? It's stupid. You should go play that game instead. And it's tough. It's tough. And I recognize that it's always tough when you don't have that many viewers to begin with. Because if you have 5 viewers and 1 viewer is in there saying, hey, this is dumb, go do something else instead, that's 20% of your audience telling you to go do something. Whereas if, say, you have 10,000 people watching and 1 person is in your chat being like, hey, this is stupid, go do that thing, the ratio is infinitesimally smaller than if you only have 5. And I think that emphasizes that negative feeling of, oh God, there's so many people who want me to go do this thing, when in actuality it's just 1. Mm-hmm. And it is, I think what I have in my mind is sort of what you were getting at, which is it's moderation in all things, right? Like you said, it's a dictatorship. It's your stream. You can do what you want with your stream. If everybody in your chat is saying, do this, and you really don't want to, you don't have to. You don't have to give into that peer pressure. You don't have to give into, the chat screaming for you to do a certain thing just because, they're all saying to do it. Is there a way? Yeah, is there a way for you to maybe twist their request and do it in a way that is there a way you can compromise or be creative about how you do it? Sure, explore those options. But if you really don't want to do something that they're telling you to do, don't do it. It's your stream.
Exactly. It took me so long to learn that. And even when I first started streaming, there would be times and moments where I would be so stressed out because I would want to cater to everyone. Again, people pleasing. We're done with therapy. No. So shout out to my therapist, man. She really helped me become a better creator. Mm-hmm. But I remember there was this one stream where I was doing so I do special effects makeup and face paint. And I was streaming it, and in the middle of the stream I was saying because when I get really focused, I can't walk and chew gum at the same time. Mm-hmm. I cannot talk and paint at the same time. It just so I felt like my stream was boring, and I was I felt so bad for everyone, and I was like, why are y'all here? I feel so bad. Just let me get off. I'm just gonna go off stream. I'm just gonna go do this. I'll only stream when I'm doing games, because I know that that's when I'm more interactive, and I know that that's what I like, and that's what my community likes, right? And I remember so many of them came out of the woodwork just to reply to me and say hey, this is your stream. We're here to watch you. I clicked on your page to watch you. Whatever it is that you decide to do, I'm down for it. and they were like, this background music got me feeling like chill, like I had some lo-fi, Twitch safe lo-fi on, and I was just painting and stuff, and they were like, yeah, whatever it is that you decide to do, we're here. We're your community. That's what we're here for. And so I think that I am very lucky, very blessed, very fortunate to have a community to remind me of that when I start to kind of falter on my own and start to stress myself out unnecessarily, because exactly what you said. Yeah, if you don't want to do some, you don't have to do it.
Yeah.
You can literally just not. Like, that's one thing that I learned about life in general too, is that it's so much easier than we make it seem and that we think it is. Like, if I don't want to think this way, I don't have to think this way anymore. If I don't want to move this way, I don't have to move this way anymore. Like, you can literally just be like, yeah, no, I'm just gonna pivot. It's my life. Like, it's my stream. I don't want to play Genshin today. I want to play Nier. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that it feels symptomatic of results-oriented thinking to me, that that a lot of how, and this is going to go a little bit broader, but a lot of how we as people interact with the world is so oriented around this idea of succeeding, of making it, of eternally growing. It's this the numbers always need to be going up and to the right, that you can never take a step back, that you can never stop, that you can never take a moment away. It's the hustle culture. It's the hustle culture that really does it to people, I think. And it's tough. It's really, really tough, because I think that this results-oriented thinking causes people to feel beholden to their audience in a way that is self-destructive, right? And that's a line that I think requires a lot of introspection. It requires a lot of taking the time to really think critically about your stream, about your content, about your mental health, about your well-being, all of these things, and really identifying what things are serving you and what things aren't. Because I think that the blanket statement, right, of always do what your audience says, they're your viewers, they're your audience, you need to keep them happy. It's there's so much more nuance to it. Like, yes, you do need to keep your audience entertained. You want to make sure that they keep coming back, but never at the detriment of your own well-being.
Yes.
And that is a line that a lot of people don't know where it is until all of a sudden, they're having that, they're reflecting on their last 3 weeks of streams and saying, wow, I did not enjoy any of that. That was all terrible. I did not have any fun. I've got a stream starting in an hour and I'm dreading it. Hey, that's a time for you to check in with yourself. That's a time for you to say, I wonder if maybe I'm letting my community dictate my life a little bit too much, and I'm no longer enjoying the process. I'm no longer enjoying the experience. And that is when it becomes time to be the dictator, to uphold those boundaries and say, hey, I'm going to go do this thing. You can come with me or not. It's up to you. But I'm not happy doing X anymore. I'm going to go do Y instead. And because I need to do that. And what you said earlier is so critical, is that your core audience, your core viewers, your core fan base, kind of icky term, but your core people are going to be there for you regardless of what you're doing. If you say, hey, I need a week off, don't talk to me for a week, I need to step away from content creation for a week because I'm losing my mind, your core will remain. are going to
Yes.
be
Yes.
there are going to be people who are peripheral to your audience who may stray away and say, oh, okay, well, I'm gonna go find something else to do. That's fine. They weren't your core audience.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Because
Mm-hmm.
let me tell you this. So when I first started content creation, I had this habit of deactivating my page all the time. I
Uh-huh.
I was treating it like it was my personal page. So, like whenever I was just feeling very heavy, I was like, I don't want to be here anymore on social media.
Yep.
I'm gonna deactivate. So anyway, I was known for constantly deactivating and coming back. And I had a fear that everyone was just going to be so fed up with it and leave. Especially because I was battling severe depression at the time. So I had bouts of depression, every few weeks, and that would last like a week here and then maybe like a couple days here and et cetera, et cetera. And so, again, thank God for my community. I just posted on Instagram. I had a whole story talking about my struggles with depression, talking about my struggles with bipolar, and how, that makes me kind of want to go away sometimes, but then I feel really bad and I feel like everyone's going to leave at some point because I'm not very consistent. And they said, basically, like, as long as you're okay, do what you have to do for you. We are here for you, and so we're going to stick around, and we will be so excited for your return when you come back. But if you need to take some time to get right, then take that time to get right. And when I started streaming as well, I was apologizing a lot for not being consistent or for having to end the stream early because I was awake all day, ate like a cracker, and then in the middle of my stream, my eyes are going blurry.
I feel that.
Yeah. And so I would be like, I am so sorry, y'all, but like, I really got to go. I need to eat. And they would be like, take care of yourself, please. Please do that. And when you come back, we're going to be here. My Twitch family knows, like, when I'm going through my depressive episodes, I will only be on maybe once that month. But they're there and they stick around because they're like, you're going to come back at some point and we're going to be here. And I think I also was saying this earlier, like, there is a major fear amongst creators, especially, as you said, more with results-oriented, like, of a mindset of, I need to get to like this many followers, or I need to get to XYZ place, and this is what success means to me. Then hitting that means that to my own detriment, at some point I'm going to get there, but it's going to be at my own detriment. And your community actually doesn't want that for you.
Yeah.
That's another thing that I think a lot of creators should really take to heart and recognize is your community, like your community, not just people that follow you, but like your community, people that support you and that are part of that core for you. They care about how you're doing. And so they want you to end the stream early so you can go eat a meal. They want you to end the stream early so that you can go get some much needed rest. They want you to cancel stream so that you can go take care of doctor's appointment or whatever, or you just need a day off. Do that. Or you need some weeks. From December to February, I streamed like 3 times. Like sometimes you just really need to take that time away. Instagram, I will take a year off. I don't even care anymore. I don't even care.
Yeah.
Because I know that my core are going to be there no matter what. Because I am actually the same exact way with creators that I follow that may not be as consistent, just like me, like that maybe post once every 6 months. I get excited for everyone in a 6-month post. Like
Yeah.
I'm genuinely happy to see them, and genuinely love and support them as being part of their community and their supporter. And so I think that, like, for creators too, just kind of take a step back and think about yourself as a supporter as well, and how you think about creators, because I can guarantee you a lot of those who support you think about you in that way.
Yeah.
So they're going to be there.
Yeah, and I think that this touches on, in a way, a question from Jackie K Plays earlier, which is, how do you combat burnout when you feel like you're not getting anywhere streaming? I mean, the only way to combat burnout is take a break, and it's weighing and balancing the need for a break against the fear of feeling like you're going to come back to nobody. But what we're telling you right now is that your core audience will be there. Your core audience understands why you need a break. Your core audience understands that if you are not at your best, your content's not going to be at your best. If you are not doing well physically, mentally, emotionally, what have you, your content will suffer alongside. And your viewers want the best for you. Your core audience wants the best for you. And I really, really, really liked what you said about the difference between viewers and community. That is such... Oh, hold on. We just lost your video. Give me 2 seconds.
Yeah.
There you go.
I don't know why
we
I did
gotcha.
that.
It happens. live streaming glitches, they happen all the time.
Technical difficulty.
Yeah.
Anyway.
It happens to everybody. But what I'm getting at is that there is a difference between a viewer and your community. Viewers come and go. Your community is so much stickier, is the kind of gross word, but it makes sense. They're stickier. They stick around. Like, that's what it comes down to, is you can... I've during my time as a content creator, I have been doxxed, I've been swatted, I've experienced the worst of the internet. And I similarly had some depressive episodes where I was like, hey, I gotta not do this. Like, for one thing, it's not safe for me right now. For another thing, I don't have the emotional capacity to deal with all of this right now. And so I think I went away for like 3 months. I basically vanished from the internet for like 3 months. And when I came back, there's always that dread. There's always that fear. There's always that terror of it. When I hit go live, is that number going to stay at 0? Is nobody going to show up? Because it's been 3 months. They say it takes like X number of weeks to build a habit, right? It's been 3 months that I haven't been live. It's been 3 months that nobody has tuned into my stream. What's it going to feel like if I start up my stream and nobody shows up? And you start to catastrophize and you start to imagine the worst. You start to picture, what if everything goes wrong? What if all of these terrible things happen? What if this? What if that? And that fear is enough to keep people away. I think it's enough. It's enough to keep people away when they've taken the break, and it's also enough to keep people from taking the break in the first place. And
Yes.
I think the both of us here should serve as an example to you of, if you are taking the breaks that you need and taking care of your well-being, you're building longevity into your content creation career, which is so important. Everybody talks about consistency. I see this word thrown around all the time. Whenever we're talking about, how do we get more followers? How do we get more viewers? How do we this? How do we that? I see this word consistency thrown around all the time, every single time. You got to be consistent. You got to be consistent. You got to be consistent. And yes, there is some truth to that, but not to your own detriment. Again, like, you need to be able to take care of yourself and be able to look after yourself in order to produce a consistent product. That's what it comes down to, is your stream needs to be a consistent product. Like, people need to be able to expect, you know, the same level or form of entertainment when they go from one stream to the next. And if you are not taking care of yourself, your product is going to suffer. Your content is going to suffer. And thus your product, even though it's showing up at the same time each week, is now an inconsistent product, right? So consistency, I want you to take that word consistency and replace it with longevity. I want you to take consistency and replace it with tenacity, right? Because if you are taking care of yourself and you are able to make sure that the content that you are producing is consistently good, that's what really matters. Like,
yes.
At the end of the day,
like,
that's what really matters.
It's like consistency, in what sense? You know, like define consistency for yourself.
Yeah.
And that, I think, because not to go off on like a little
do it
tangent, but like in a capitalistic society, like how are you able to really be consistent without burning yourself out, without you know, detrimentally, or without detriment to your health, right? We see this a lot of the time in the anime worlds with the creators of manga who end up with severe health issues because, yes, they are consistent, but then they are not producing what you're saying, like longevity in the field, in the sense of like being able to continue certain things, like for Hunter x Hunter, like it's on an indefinite break because of the fact that, you know, he can't create anymore because of his health. And so I think that in this sense, like, we are already being overworked and underpaid for the most part in any field that you go into, because I think that everybody should be paid, like, you know, at least 30 minimum or something in these streets, because it's wild out here, right? Like, we have lives outside of what we are doing when we are streaming, and that makes it difficult to be consistent. But like you said, as long as your stuff is like consistently good, or you're consistently producing up to, you know, a certain caliber, then I think that that's pretty key. Like, sometimes people will make note of, like, you know, your streams actually get better when you come back, or your content, like your cosplays, get better every time you come back, versus if you were to keep going, like, we could kind of see that you were being run down a lot. And I'm like, yeah, because I rested, so now I'm refreshed, and now I can come back, and now I can deliver back at, you know, back up here. Maybe I am not going to consistently deliver at 100%, 100%, 100%, but I'll deliver at a 75 today. I'll just deliver at an 80 today. I'll deliver within a certain range, and we'll keep it there, and we'll keep it steady, and we'll keep it going. You know, like, I think that it also looks differently for those of us who are like neurodivergent and who battle severe like mental health issues. Consistency is going to look different for us.
Yes.
It just is.
Yeah.
So you decide what that looks like for you, you know, like you said, creating longevity. Well, for me, that means taking 6 months off at a time.
Yeah. And there is, like, there are plenty of examples of big name content creators who, you know, they will take months between YouTube videos. And it doesn't matter, because, you know, when they drop that video in 2 months, it's gonna be amazing. Like, there's there's this YouTube rabbit hole that I went down. There's this guy, I don't know if you've seen his content, Nile Red. Anybody know him in the chat? He is a chemist by trade, and he makes the most insane chemistry videos on YouTube. Like, I think at one point he turned like like plastic gloves into grape soda. Like that was,
Oh my gosh.
yeah. And it's like, it's the wildest stuff. And he does not put out a video every week. He does not put out 3 videos a week. He puts out a video when his experiment is done and when he has a video to put out. But you know that as soon as you get that notification of like, oh, there's a new Now Red video, you're like, I gotta go watch that. Because I have no idea what kind of crazy thing he's just pulled off that was months in the making, but I know I gotta see it. And you, like, the traditional idea of consistency is put out a video every Wednesday, put out a video every Wednesday, put out a video every Wednesday, put out a video every Wednesday. And that is so hard to keep up over 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, whatever. That is difficult. And the vast majority of people who are doing that kind of posting schedule, they have a team. They have writers. They have editors.
Yeah.
They have people who are taking care of the production, the community engagement, you know, responding to comments, you know, the social media management. Like Philip DeVranco, you know, puts out a new news show every single day that is, you know, well edited, well shot, well researched, well written, whatever. He has a team to help him put that show on. The vast majority of streamers, the vast majority of content creators are a one-person operation. You do not have time in your day to do your regular job, get 5 hours of sleep, and perform all of the tasks that his team is able to perform for him. So you gotta understand what consistency means to you. To Izzy's point, what does consistency mean to you? Does consistency mean doing something 3 days a week, or does it mean making sure that your streams are constantly within that range of, you know, I am giving you upwards of 85%, you know, every single stream? It's really, really hard because, you know, I think the traditional advice here is make sure you're going live on the same days every week at the same times. That's you know, I'm going to say it, that's a low bar to clear, right? That's baseline. Putting in the effort into each stream is so much harder. And, you know, I think to your point, Izzy, that, you know, there are some streams where, like your community, for example, people can just show up and have no idea what's going to happen, and everybody's on board, and that's amazing. Yeah. Like, I don't want to discount how incredible that is, because that is so cool that your community is like that on board to just be like, hey, we're going to take a sharp turn left with no turn signal and see where this goes. Who cares? That's great. That is so wonderful. For some people's communities, it means planning your stream out. It means coming up with that concept ahead of time. It means pre-planning. It means pre-production. It means, you know, getting the group together, you know, with the plan to play this game, to you know, do these things and reach this level of progression or whatever. Like, you know, there are streams out there that their communities do not vibe with that level of spaghetti on wall creation. And that means that you have to be able to, did somebody use my favorite word, CPU girl? There's a command, Voxney. There's a command. Don't forget about the command. This is again, speaking of inside jokes, in one of my previous office hour streams, I let everybody in our audience know that I hate the word networking. I hate that word. I hate that word. Yeah. And if ever anybody uses the word networking, I believe it's just exclamation point network or exclamation point networking or something like that. If you use that word in my presence, I'm going to send you a clip to be like, go watch this clip about networking and then come back and tell me what you think about networking. But you know, this again, talking about like leaning in, right? This is a perfect example of leaning in. Like, yeah, Voxney, friend of the stream, always around, you know, like this is our inside joke of like, don't say the word networking around me. And yeah, and like
Oh,
people
gosh,
have been
I'm
here
not
for
a
a
fan of the
while.
word.
But yeah, anyways, just a little sidetracked. Okay. The topic that I want to pivot to is a term that I think hopefully you have heard. Maybe you haven't. I don't know. If you haven't, I would love to help define it for you. But in regards to the fine line between building a community and fostering parasocial relationships. Are you familiar with that term, parasocial relationships?
Ooh, yes.
How do
Ooh.
you... Yeah, I know. We're in our second hour, so we're going to get deep. How do you find that line without tripping over it headlong? Feel free to take a moment to think about this while you're thinking. Chat, while Izzy thinks, while they're thinking about this question, their answer to this question, if you have questions about building community, about how to foster a community, please throw them into the chat. I'm monitoring, I'm copying and pasting. I will make sure that I'll make sure that the good ones get added to the conversation. But please feel free to throw your questions into the chat for us so that we can make sure to go over those topics.
Okay.
So what do you think?
I'm thinking. When I first started with IG, I would post. So I've always kind of been a like mental health like advocate publicly, right? So aside from cosplays, I would post on my stories like, "Hey, let me know if you guys want advice." And I thought at the time, I was like, okay, this cool little way for me to connect to the community, Like, I'll tell them a little bit about me. They can tell me, you know, their struggles, whatever. Like, cool, we'll keep it going. No, I had to end that because people were starting to, because I was being a little bit too personable. They started to think that there was a connection there that wasn't what it was on my end. You know, like for me, it's like creator community, like there's a barrier between us, you know, still, right? Like you don't know my personal life. I'm only telling you as much as I'm, and because I'm really open about, oh, I have this and I'm dealing with this and da 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 da. Like I'm just a yapper. Like I just tell my business to everybody. And so
I mean, same.
because
So
yeah, yeah, because of that, you know, people tend to think that they have a closer relationship with me than maybe I think. And so every once in a while I will post on Instagram and I will say in my streams like, hey, I just want to let you know that as much as I love and adore y'all and support y'all and da 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 da, there still needs to be some type of boundary between us because otherwise it can get unhealthy. You know, and we want to make sure that we maintain a healthy relationship with one another, and so I kind of set like, these are my boundaries. Like, please don't ask me about these things. We will not discuss these things. And they are boundaries to myself, right? Because like I said, I'm a yapper. Like I like to talk and I like to tell everybody everything. And so sometimes I have to be like, Izzy, reel it back, reel it in.
we're not going to talk about that. We talked about this. We're not going to talk about that.
Yeah, exactly. We have been over this many times. But you know, I've had certain points in my, I don't really like using the word career, but like as a creative, right? A creative career, whatever, as a creative, I've had certain points in time where, it did start to overstep that boundary and people were getting real comfortable with me. And so I had to step in and say like, hey, y'all are getting a little too comfortable over here. A little too close, for comfort, and we gotta take this down a notch. So how are we gonna do this? So I think that I navigate everything in a way where I'm open, but open enough and open to a certain extent. Like I won't allow myself to open up past a certain point. I'm kind and I'm warm, but to a certain degree and in a certain way that I wouldn't treat other people. And I think that for creators, it's also like having to learn how to navigate different relationships. I was treating everybody the same. You know, I was treating them like I was talking to my best friends because they're my community. I consider really close to me. So, you know, like, guess what my mom did today? You know, like, and so I had to learn. It was more of me having to set boundaries within myself. Be like, Izzy, don't do this, because then you kind of open the door for these types of relationships, and you don't want to do that. Do not open that door, Isabel. Leave it locked. Throw away the key, please. We don't want anything unhealthy. We want to make sure everything is conducive to a healthy relationship between you and others. So
yes,
yeah.
and I think that's one of those things that's also really, really, really difficult, because the fundamental paradox of streaming is that because it's live, because you're able to read and interact directly with people in chat, because there is that real direct feedback of communication, it fosters that human connection that makes it so wonderful, but also breaks down that barrier of how do you define a parasocial relationship in this regard, right? You know, because for those of you in the chat who don't know what a parasocial relationship is, I'll define it for you all real quick. A parasocial relationship is a relationship in which, and this was coined during like the radio days, the listener of a broadcast feels a level of kinship and bond to the person who is broadcasting that is non-reciprocal, right? So, it is essentially, so say, for example, really, really feeling like you're very good friends with an actor on a TV show because you've been watching everything that they do and you've been watching all of their interviews and you feel like you know them and that you're friends with them, even though they don't really know who you are and they are not friends with you. That's a parasocial relationship. And I think the difficulty with maintaining this boundary is that for streamers whose chats are not moving at 1 billion miles an hour, it's natural to want to connect with your audience. It's natural to want to connect with the people who are consistently showing up in your chat. And you start to erode that boundary. Like, it's very clear when, you know, you're just talking into a microphone or acting on a set and you have no idea who's watching your films or your TV show because they're not directly interacting with you ever. You know, you go, you do your acting, they put it out there, and all of a sudden there's people saying like, oh, we're besties. Like, that's a very clear-cut parasocial relationship.
Yeah.
When you are trying to build a community, that line gets very, very blurred. And I think, Izzy, to your point, is your emotions will tell you when something feels bad. And I don't, and you know, this, especially for AFAB and femme presenting creators, is a much bigger problem than for mask presenting creators like myself. Because I don't have as many people battering down my door saying, oh my God, I'm in love with you and want to date you and want to take you out and all of these things.
Gosh.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I'm
Yep.
like experiencing flashbacks. I'm having a moment.
Yeah. Because that is a reality. That is a reality for a lot of AFAB and femme presenting creators on the internet. Is that parasocial relationship goes beyond just, oh, I think we're good friends, you know, maybe we'll go get a beer sometime, to I'm in love with you and want to date you, and
Yep.
it can turn very, very nasty. Like, there are so many examples of stalkers, of just bad stuff happening. Like, it's all out there. You can go find it yourself. We don't have to get into it, but it really emphasizes the need to get that right. It emphasizes the need to figure out where your boundaries are and ensuring that you maintain them, and ensuring that you do not let everybody in on absolutely everything that is going on in your life. Honestly, even if you want like less harmful examples of this, you can look at the Jake Paul address leak incident, where, you know, Jake Paul's address got leaked on the internet like years and years and years ago, and all of a sudden everybody's showing up at the door and being like, actually, I think he put it out on the internet, but whatever, it doesn't matter. But like, all of a sudden everybody's showing up at the door and causing problems for everyone, and it becomes a dangerous situation. Like, you need to understand where your boundaries are, ideally before you run into them, right? Ideally before you are suddenly in a dangerous situation. Ideally before somebody, your most consistent viewer, is suddenly in your DMs talking, you know, sending you Shakespearean sonnets or whatever. Like, you know, ideally before you get to that point, you have already have a plan of action in place to say, hey, if this happens, this is how I'm going to deal with it.
Yes. Yeah. I think that I didn't know what parasocial relationships were when I first started, when I was dealing with it at first. And I didn't, that's really great advice to have like an action plan before, because I definitely didn't. I learned as I went. And it is scary. It's definitely scary. Which is why I had to set those boundaries with myself and be like, Isabel, stop saying XYZ. And the other thing too is because I'm so like nurturing, I guess, and warm and inviting, and I used to have mother, like I come from, like, my friends are queens, you know, so like to me, I'm like, call me mother, you know, like, because that's just part of my culture, right?
Sure. Yeah.
Like, yeah, the queer community. But then people started to like really get into that, and it started to become something where people thought that they could lean on me for heavy emotional stuff or heavy emotional labor. And I was like, I hate your mama. Like, I'm not not in that way. You know, and then to the point of having people that think they're in a relationship with you. I've had people think they were already with me, or express that they wanted to be, and they were in my message request. Like, we never even had an actual conversation. But because of the way that I was talking, that seemingly the barriers were just see-through, like, and so fluid, that it just kind of invited it. Like, I don't want to sound like victim blaming, but there is kind of a sense of responsibility that we have to not to set a boundary, you know, like, because you can't control anybody else, but you can control yourself.
Yes.
And what you do. It's like, you can't control, okay, after I've done this, that, and the third, like, they shouldn't be falling in love with me
Mm-hmm.
anymore and write Shakespearean sonnets in my messages, but they still are. But I have done everything in my, that I could do
Mm-hmm.
to prevent that. At this point, I can't do much more.
Mm-hmm.
But, I feel like as long as you kind of set those boundaries, you're still going to have some people that it's just kind
Yeah.
of, I feel like it's just going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
But for the most part, yeah, I would go on. And I didn't do it so politely at first, too. I'd be like, I'm never going to date y'all. We're not going to be friends. Da da da.
Yeah, that is such a hard line to walk, because sometimes, because sometimes it does take that blunt language to be like, hey, this is not gonna happen. I need you to understand that. Like, I don't want you to like feel worse about this. I don't want you to feel like, I don't ever want you around. I do, but there's a line here, and I need you to stay on that side of it. And until you get it, I'm gonna have to keep using blunter and blunter language. Like, like, it's such a tough balance of like, you try and not be super mean, to not be super harsh, of like, oh, hey, yeah, like, I'll thank you for sending me that video. I'll check it out when I have a chance. Like, and then like, hey, yeah, I know I talk about what city I'm in, but I don't feel super comfortable meeting you for lunch. Like, and then be like,
yep.
No, I don't want to do this. We're not dating. Stop talking about it like we're dating. We're not dating. Like,
Stop it.
I don't know you, you know? So it's tough. It's really, really tough. And highborn honey, that is a terrible idea. Like is one of my filler words, and that you were in trouble.
Yeah, same. Typical Californian for me. I say like every other word.
I'm from New England. I don't know where I picked it up. I was gonna say I'm from New England. I don't know where I picked it up. I think I learned about like people saying like in California back in like elementary school, and was like, oh, this is gonna be me from now on. But yeah, it's so difficult of walking that line, and it's so personal, it's so subjective. That's the thing, right? It's so subjective, because there are people in my life who started out as viewers. There are people in my life who have started out as viewers, and I've invited them into my home. Like, they are good friends of mine. I do consider them very good friends of mine. And the traditional logic is never do that, never ever do that. Like, don't ever. Mm-hmm. But it's subjective, right? You have to know where your limits are, and you have to utilize your sense of judgment. If you happen to be a terrible judge of character, and ask your friends, they probably have a judgment about this. If you happen to be a terrible judge of character, maybe don't ever let anybody into your home. If you're a good judge of character, utilize your judgment. But it's all subjective is the point, right? There are people, like I said, there are literally people that I had met through streaming, through content creation, who are like, at one point were saying that they wanted me to like, be the best man at their wedding, and like maybe the godparent of their children, like, like really, really deep, close, entangled relationships. And these are relationships that were started on the internet. So, I think it's safe to say that like, you need to utilize your best judgment. You need to know where your boundaries are, and you need to protect yourself. But that doesn't mean that you have to put up the wall and like shut off all human connection and never talk about how you're doing, because again, that's too distant. That's too separate, right? It's all about balance.
Absolutely. And I think that, as someone who is like femme and like AFAB and everything like that, I will say it's definitely a delicate balance. Mm-hmm. And it's definitely, when I went off that one time, it was only once, but I really went in good enough for everyone to leave me alone after that. But they're like, "Ooh, they crazy." But like, that's also scary, like just to even stand up for yourself. So
Mm-hmm.
it's so difficult to be able to tell. But that's where I think a key word within the creator space and just in general is discernment, like you were
Mm.
saying. When someone is going to be someone you can invite over versus not, right? Hone that discernment,
Mm-hmm.
and that will tell you how you're going to move. I think um I'm like a spiritual person, and so in those terms I took care of myself spiritually in order to fine tune my intuition and my discernment.
Mm-hmm.
And so now navigating comes a lot easier, and I don't even have to think about it oftentimes. Like I just opened myself up to my community to where I was letting them know, hey, my therapist told me this, and so I'm going to start practicing it with you guys.
Mm-hmm.
Now I'm going to let down my guard a little bit and open myself up in this way to y'all because I've been doing the work in therapy, and I feel safe enough to
Mm-hmm.
do that here. Um, but that's only because at that time I felt like it was an okay thing to move ahead and do, and
Mm-hmm.
I felt safe enough to do it. And yeah, you just like you said, if you don't have good judgment of character, I am so sorry to you. Like I really don't know the advice other than hone that discernment, like try your best.
I mean,
I don't know, but
honestly, if you
some
aren't
of us
the
don't, so you're
yeah,
right.
some people don't. Like if you aren't the best judge of character and you are a little bit too loosey goosey with your boundaries, or are a people pleaser, like I'm working on that too. Um, get a mod, a mod who is a good friend of yours,
Yes.
who is going to be the bad cop. I have a couple of
Yes.
those in my life. I have a few.
Love them.
Um,
Love
and
them.
and have that person in your life, because they will be the person that you can go to and say, hey, I feel a little uncomfy about how this situation played out, but I don't want to hurt their feelings. Like they sent me this really nice Shakespearean sonnet, but also they think we're dating and I don't want that. And I don't know how to tell them not to, but like it was a really nice gesture. And, they sent me flowers to my address, and it's creepy that they know my address, but they sent me flowers. Like, what am I supposed to do? That mod will be like, I got you. Don't worry. I got you.
Yeah.
Having
My mom don't play about me.
Yep. Having that
Yep.
person in your corner can be so important sometimes to upholding that boundary. If you tend to be a people pleaser and tend to be, a little bit loosey goosey with your boundaries, have that person in your corner because they will be the person to be like, don't worry. I got you. I'm going to go have a word with them. I'll be back.
Yep.
And then they'll come back and be like, it's handled. You're good. and
that speaks to the importance of community. You have someone in your corner to help you and to support you because they're part of your community, because you've created that relationship, the dynamic between you two. So yeah, I got mods that don't play. They don't play.
And that's
even
so
me
important.
Sometimes I'm like, whoa.
Yeah.
They're
but that's so important and it speaks to, I think the important thing is it speaks to a lot of the groundwork that has to be done ahead of time of like communicating with these people. Once you know who they are in your life, it's pretty obvious, like, oh, okay, you're gonna be that mod for me. And once you understand these are my boundaries, these are my limits, these are the things that make me uncomfortable that I don't want on my stream, once you establish all of that, you can hand that off to your mod, and your mod will say, I got you. Don't worry. You don't got to worry about a thing. I'll take care of it. And they will handle it for you. so that you don't have to sit there and look uncomfortable on stream and say, oh, hey, can we not use foul language in my chat? It makes me... They'll be like, no swearing. Stop it. I'll ban you.
Yep. Yep.
That's it.
Sometimes they won't even give a warning. They'll just kick you.
They'll just be like, gone.
And then they'll be like, that was your warning. You will get banned next time.
Yep. So yeah, having that person in your life, in your stream, in your community comes with a lot of that, building that groundwork, doing all of that foundational work of saying, this is how I feel about this. This is how I feel about that. Figuring out where your boundaries lie, and then having those people in your life, in your community, to say, hey, these are the boundaries that I have. Help me establish them. Help me maintain them. And yeah, it like, and the next topic that I'm going to get into, I think, is maybe something that you've also had to deal with, because I'm touching back on something that you said earlier. They can help you in those moments where it's a really touchy situation. For somebody who talks a lot about mental health, for somebody who talks a lot about, people going through difficult times, when you are engaging in that kind of content, when you're creating that kind of content, it is very easy. It might not be parasocial, but it's very easy to slip into that role of mom, of therapist, of parent.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
it's a slippery slope.
Yeah. And what has been your strategies? And, this is not exclusive. I want to be clear. This is not exclusive of mental health content. This happens in my gaming streams. I'll be playing a game and somebody will come in and be like, I'm having the worst week. Here's all of the terrible things that have happened to me. Help me deal with it. And I don't want to cut off those kinds of conversations, because I do think they're important. I do think that being able to lean on a support system where you can find it, especially for those people who don't have access to good mental health care or who don't have that community in person, finding that community online can be very, very important, can be very helpful. But there's a line. And what has been your experience of maybe realizing, oh, there was the line as it zooms past me, or, what has been your experience with finding that line, maybe passing that line and then having to walk back? And how have you established those boundaries to say, yes, I am willing to talk about difficult topics. I'm willing to talk about the hardships in your life to a point.
Yes. Again, I had to learn before I started streaming, so I just laugh because I'm just thinking like, oh God, if I started off streaming, this would have gone so differently. Because I would not have had the boundaries that I have now. Absolutely not. So for me, one thing that I'm really glad that I created the vent here portion of my Discord, because then if people have something that they really need to get off their chest and it's not an appropriate time, hey, I have a Discord, and in there's a channel where you can go vent, and sometimes people go in there and they give advice. Here you go. And providing a resource, so like you're still going to be heard out, you're still going to be able to get that out, and it's still going to be something that will be in my orbit, but I won't necessarily have to personally engage with it. If I do decide I'm going to engage with it, then because during mental health streams, we can talk about people pleasing, right? We'll use that as an example. I've talked about people pleasing before, and people will give experiences, and people will talk about current dilemmas, and like, oh, I just can't believe that this happened. And luckily I have my community is pretty tight-knit with each other, not just with me, so they talk to each other like while I'm going off talking about whatever I'm talking about. I sometimes I feel like I'm having like two different streams happening at
Oh,
once.
sure, yeah.
Because, like I'm way back here. I was watching this video with y'all,
Mhm.
and I'm still commenting on the video, and y'all are talking about somebody's life experience.
Oh, yeah.
Like, but I'll bring it in and I will incorporate it into whatever it is, like the content. So you're being heard out and you are receiving advice, but it becomes a bit more generalized. It doesn't have to be so personalized. And so that's kind of my way to work around it, to where I'm still being someone that during this specific time and place, we are going to talk about this. Because if it's outside of that, then I'll just say this is not the appropriate time and space.
Mhm.
Here you go to my Discord. Like, I just put up that boundary. But yeah, if it's within a Mental Health Monday day, then it's just like I will try and find a way to incorporate it and to make it something that now everyone can comment on, and it's a little bit more broad. And so I'm receiving it but filtering it, so I'm not receiving like the brunt and the force of that impact,
Yeah.
Because I also am someone that will, like, I'm still learning emotional boundaries. So like if you're sad, I'm gonna be very sad with you, like not for you, with you. And so I just have to do that for myself too, because otherwise I do get weighed down by what people tell me, because it sticks in my mind and I'm just like, oh my gosh, like I can't even imagine like being in that situation and XYZ. But yeah, one thing internally I tell myself, like, remember, their stuff is their stuff, not yours. Yours is yours to hold and yours alone. And then I mean, within reason. And then I will just try and make it into a learning experience for us, so that like you know that I read your comment, that I see that you're struggling, and that I am sympathizing, but I'm also not going to overextend. Because what I used to do, I would message them afterward to be like, hey, how are you doing? Da, 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 da. Like I would create that relationship, and then I would get sucked in so easily. Oh my gosh. Yeah. So now I'm like, is he? Don't do that.
Yeah.
Create a more general topic and fit it under that umbrella. You don't have to keep it so personal. So,
yeah.
Yeah,
And I think that goes to something that Sky Natsume, I think, was talking about. The prior topic was finding the mod. Finding that mod, that trustworthy mod, is the trouble. It is difficult. I think that you and I maybe have the perspective of hindsight here, that you and I have been doing this for long enough that it's very clear to us when somebody is there, as a genuine core audience member versus somebody who's there who, is maybe there to take advantage of the community or take advantage of the attention or stuff like that. Where, and I'm trying to figure out how to phrase this. It's the discernment, to use your word. Like, my discernment is very sharp. It's very clear. I can tell very, very quickly within the first few messages of my stream when somebody shows up for the first time, whether they're going to be a good fit and whether they are the kind of person that I am willing to let get closer to me. And I think that to a certain extent that is a skill, unfortunately, born of mistakes. I think that is a skill that is born of having run into those incidents, those issues of, of people who are are clearly there to trauma dump for the sake of pity or attention.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, I recognize how that sounds, but at the same time, you know, I definitely had a viewer who ran through, I want to say, like 5 grandmas in the 4 months that they were in my community. And like, I like, it's really tough because you want to be there for them. You want to say like, wow, yeah, that's really, really tough. How are you handling that? Are you okay? Also knowing that you're feeding into the behavior a little bit.
Yeah.
And that's a really, really hard thing to do. That's a really, really tough line to draw, which I think is why a lot of people stray away from it entirely, of like, hey, this is not a place to trauma dump. And you know, to your point exactly, you can create a space for it, or you can have those resources on hand in the form of a command that say, hey, you know, if you're struggling with your mental health, here's some hotlines, here's some people that you can go talk to, here's how to find resources in your area, but this is not an appropriate space for it. And having all of that set ahead of time, again, talking about pre-preparation, having all of that set ahead of time can save you so much headache in the running, instead of having to be like, oh God, do I want to have a venting channel in my Discord? Do I even want to invite that into my Discord server? Because some people do, some people don't. And that's okay. Both answers are all right. You are not obligated as a streamer to be the shoulder for somebody to cry on in those tough moments. You're not obligated to do that. You do not owe them, anybody, your time in that way. Especially not to your own detriment. So it's such a tough situation to handle, that if you are just kind of going about streaming without thinking about these things ahead of time, and you run headlong into that user, into that viewer who only ever has bad news, who only ever has negativity, who only ever has, you know, those kinds of bringing those kinds of vibes into your channel, and you're not comfortable with it, you might not know how to deal with it in the moment, and it can go on and on and on and on, and it can establish a new norm in your community that you didn't really want.
Yeah.
So figure it out early.
Yeah. Yes, I would definitely say figure that out as soon as possible. Sometimes also I ignore. I'm not gonna lie. Like, sometimes I just ignore certain things. I see it, and I'm just, with certain, again, discernment, with certain characters that I know every single time you come in here is going to be something. Like, and we're all going to get dragged down, and it's going to be, and I keep reminding you, I have a vent channel and you do not use it. You know, like something like that. Then when they come in, I'm just like, okay, well, usually somebody in my community will respond, because that's just, again, how my community is. So I think that because of that, and I have a mod who's really on top of things, it also allows me to kind of take a step back. So it's kind of something that I've learned by working with children, is like planned ignoring, where it's like I'm ignoring the behavior. I'm not ignoring you, but I'm ignoring the behavior, because I don't want to kind of set that tone of like, this is okay. So I'm ignoring some of this like trauma dumpy stuff. But then once you want to talk about anything else, like the game I'm playing, yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, let's talk. We're right back into it.
I'm down to talk. It's just, now is not the appropriate time. So typically, if it is something that's inappropriate, I will just say, hey, this is not the appropriate time. I do have a vent channel on my Discord, so I link them there. And then if they continue, then you know what? I'm just gonna go on with the stream. Like,
yep. Yeah, and yeah. This gets into a topic that I am super passionate about, which is community curation. How do you build the community that you want to represent you, and more specifically, how do you maintain it and keep it safe from people who would do it harm.
Yes.
Because and that's something that's important, and this is my piece on it. This something that's very important to remember is that your community represents your content. Your community represents your stream and represents you as a content creator. So if you have members of your core audience who are out there acting in a way that you don't like, that you aren't comfortable with, that is grounds, in my opinion, to remove them from your community. And this comes in the form of viewership as well. Of if you have individuals in your chat, say you only have one person in your chat, and this person is behaving in a way antagonistically, that they are trolling you, that they are, constantly making fun of you, stuff like that. It's very easy, especially if they're your only viewer, to think, okay, I just got to put up with this because at least the chat's moving. At least I have some engagement. At least I have somebody talking to me, and then another person comes in and sees that this is the vibe, and they're like, oh, I can get down with this. And then they start trolling you, and then a third person, and then a fourth person, and they're all like, oh, this is the kind of place where we get to troll this person. Oh, sweet, I'm down for that. And all of a sudden, you've built a community that you don't like and that you don't want to represent you. So it's so important from the jump to curate the community that you want to represent you. And to my question to you, Izzy, what steps do you take to maintain that harmony, to maintain the safety of your community, even if it means making those tough decisions? Like, what are some things that you have done? Where, what are some things that you've learned about that?
So my view on this is a safe space for everyone is a safe space for no one. I definitely have seen people, other creatives, try to create a safe space and open it up for everyone to be part of that, right? Well, what happens when you have someone who says something homophobic in your community and you want to try and make it a safe space for them to be able to say what they want to say, right? For me, like I said, my place is a dictatorship. I don't play with that. I don't think that's cool. So to me, that is not indicative of a safe space. A safe space, I would say, is more catered to marginalized communities, especially. I'm not a safe space for Trump supporters. I'm just not. I'm not a safe, I'm not gonna sit here and sugarcoat it or lie, right? But for those who are on the receiving end of the vitriol that he was spewing, I am a safe space. I'm a safe space for trans folk. I'm a safe space for queer folk. I'm a safe space for Black and brown folk, et cetera, et cetera. And so I will immediately shut comments down that I think would make people feel unsafe immediately. Like, I don't play about it. I grew up in a very queer world. So to me, I'm going to always prioritize my community, because in the queer world, our community is everything for us. Our community is our family, found family, oftentimes, right? So I take my experiences back to Instagram, because that's where I started, and then going into streaming, would post stories, and I would keep it as like a highlight. Like, I would make it a point to be like, no homophobia, no transphobia, no fat phobia, no XYZ. Like, I am not here for any of that, and if I see it, I'm gonna block you. You're not gonna be part of this community, because that means that you're making it unsafe for these people that I'm really trying to protect, and I want them to feel safe. So that's what I do. What is the phrase, like, ruling with an iron fist? Like, I don't know. I'm just not with it. So
sure, yeah.
I'm very much like, look, you can't say this, that, and the third. And I will even check my community,
Mm-hmm.
like even people I'm in community with. I say like, hey, check me if I say anything that may be offensive, and I only want to be in community with those who are open-minded,
Mm-hmm.
because then that allows for safety, right? And so that would mean that if I come to you about something that you said that was maybe, like biphobic, and you probably didn't have like bad intentions, but you
Mm-hmm.
did say it, like I would hope that you're open enough to receiving what I'm telling you.
Mm-hmm.
And that's pretty much how I talk with my community. But yeah, I'm very I don't play. I don't
Yeah.
play like we were talking about our mods that don't play about me. I don't play about my community at all. And also like I don't play about me. Like
Mm-hmm.
I'm queer. I non-binary. I'm femme presenting and black, indigenous, da da da. Like what do I look like allowing people to overstep and to say whatever it is that they want and talk slick? Like
Mm-hmm.
I'm not here for that. So yeah, to me, I believe a safe space is something that you have to like make sure that you are being intentional with. It's that
Mm-hmm.
intentionality. To take your word, the intentionality
Yeah.
of saying like, hey, I'm not cool with this. I'm actually not okay with that. That actually makes people feel unsafe.
Mm-hmm.
Um and again, like I said, you can't be, to me personally, my personal belief is that I'm not going to be a safe space for literally every single person,
Mm-hmm.
because I am not a safe space again for people who are anti me and my identities. I'm
Mm-hmm.
just not. You're gonna get kicked. You're gonna get blocked. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, you come over here and you say something like, I don't know, put the wall up or something like that. Yeah, blocked immediately. Like,
Yeah.
we can have it's not to say that like we can't have like opposing political views to a certain degree, I
Sure.
believe, but once you start to get into like hatred and certain vitriol, then it's like, yeah, I'm not in community with you. We're not
Mm-hmm.
community with
Yeah.
each other. And I also strive to make sure that I myself, I always say that like I am a safe space. So every space that I occupy therefore is going to be safe.
Mm.
So wherever I go, like don't worry, I'm gonna say something.
Mm-hmm. And
Yeah, because
I think that to that point, it going back to that idea of curating community, of curating the people that you want to represent your stream, your content, who you are as a creator. I think that being very protective of that is only going to serve and only going to benefit the longevity of your content creation career, right? It's if that mod, for example, that you lean on happens to not be around or happens to be busy doing something else, the rest of your community can step up and be like, hey, we don't do that here. And
hmm
I personally, and this is for me, and this is the way that I approach these things. For me, I tend to view things, I tend to make a judgment in those moments of, is this somebody who is saying these things that I don't agree with, whether it's homophobic, racist, whatever? Are they saying it out of ignorance or are they saying it out of malice? And
yes,
that is an
yeah,
important distinction for me personally to draw,
yeah.
because
Malice gets you blocked. Ignorance gives you like a talk.
exactly,
Yeah.
because for me, right? For me, if I see somebody, using a word in a way that it's pretty obvious to me that they don't understand the implication of using this kind of vocabulary, then I can say, hey, we don't utilize that word here. Let's talk about why. And if you can understand that and if you can agree to that, then welcome. You're here. Like, people are capable of change. But that being said, if it's obviously malicious, if it's obvious that the intent is harm, then cool. I don't got to engage with this person. And for you, general you, not you specifically, Izzy, but for you as a creator, you are, again, under no obligation to do that emotional labor. You are not obligated to be that educator. And I think as a fellow BIPOC individual, like, we can agree that, like, oftentimes education about these issues, about, underrepresented communities, falls on the shoulders of the people in that community. And, we are expected to be these sort of paragons of education and always keep our emotions in check and always be, ready at the drop of a hat to be like, hey, let's talk about why that word is harmful. And let's talk about history, and let's do this and let's do that. And sometimes you just don't want to do it. And that's okay. And you are under no obligation to do that emotional labor. You are not obligated to be the educator for everybody if you don't want to. And it goes back again to curating your community, curating the people that you think represent you best as a creator and are willing to uphold the tenets and values of your content, of you as a creator and of the community that you want to build. And it's tough. It's really, really tough, especially when you're just getting started and every view feels like it matters and every single comment feels exciting and like, oh, we have people talking and people are here and I'm really, really stoked to like have people in my channel now finally, only to then realize like you're giving away an important part of yourself for the sake of that viewer. And you have to make that judgment call at some point. And you have to understand like, hey, this is not worth my dignity. This is not worth my ethics. This is not worth my morals to maintain this view.
Mm-hmm.
And the sooner you can figure that out, the better. Because again, once you curate that audience, once you curate those people who are going to be willing to come back to your stream after a month off because you've been dealing with some health issues, that's how you build longevity. That's how you build that core audience. That's how you build those people who are willing. Your ride or dies is what it comes down to. It's tough. It's really tough.
Yeah, I think that, there's that, what is that saying? Like, all press is good press. Like how people say like, yeah, I don't believe that. So in the terms of like viewership and those who follow and stuff, like not every single person there is like, not every follower is like I don't want to say like good or bad follower, but one that you would want to keep in community. Like not everyone is going to be for you, and that is totally a-okay, because there are people that will be there for you and that are for you. You just gotta keep it going and keep, streaming, putting yourself on other platforms and opening up that Discord and creating community, and that community will eventually organically start to come through, and then it's up to you to kind of filter through and be like, okay, this sounds good for me. But yeah, you definitely don't need everyone. And I think that like that also, like, creators kind of tend to think that we need to hold on to every little number. You have to decide whether you want the numbers, or you care about the numbers, or you care about the impact, or you care about anything else outside of that. Because once you care about impact, the numbers aren't going to phase you at all. I don't even know how much like my friends will be like, oh my gosh, Izzy, you have like this many followers, and I'll be like, I don't even remember like hitting that goal or like hitting that number or anything like that. I just cared about, does this feel good to me?
Yep.
Does this feel does this feel like conducive to like a healthy relationship with my creative career? Yeah, cool. Then I'm good.
Yep. That's it. Yeah. All right. I think we're just about at the end of our time here.
Oh my god.
I feel like it's gone by so quick.
I know. This is a good conversation.
Yeah.
Wow.
I had a blast. I hope you did as well. Thank you again so much for being here, Izzy. This was a really great talk, and I hope that everybody took something away from that, because I know I certainly did. Too quick, Sky. It went by like that. So Izzy, please, again, tell people where they can find you. Tell people all about your content. Tell people if they haven't gotten enough of you yet, where they can go, where else they can find you.
Oh man, y'all not sick of me yet? So you can find me on Twitch, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok, Izzy Kento. And I do cosplay, a lot of mental health content, political content, as well as just like makeup and fashion. I'm everywhere. I have so many interests, and I just do it all. I do not restrict myself. So y'all come through. Y'all don't. We never know what's going to happen in the stream. We never know what's going to happen when I'm creating content. We just get there. It's about the journey, not the destination. With me on my page and on all my platforms. So yeah, thank you all so much for everything, and thank you to everyone that's in the chat. I've been reading the messages. I will definitely give y'all the makeup tips. Don't even worry about it. I've seen quite a few people like, I just want to know Izzy's makeup routine. Like, I got y'all. Don't even worry.
Perfect. Yeah, and if you haven't gotten sick enough of me yet, I go by Nubbins Inc. pretty much everywhere on the internet: Twitch, TikTok, Instagram, Twitter /X. I am going to be live again tonight at 7 p.m. I normally stream Valorant, but I have been really addicted to Helldivers recently, so we've been doing a lot more of that. So if you want to come and watch some chaotic gameplay as my friends and I all try and blow each other up with 380s, that's what we're probably going to be doing tonight. And this show we try and do every week, although next week is going to be PAX East, so I'm going to be busy with that, hanging out at PAX East. So if you see me, come find me. We'll give you some stickers and take a photo if you want. And yeah, so I'm gonna be there and not doing this. But if you haven't already, make sure to follow Streamlabs at Streamlabs on all social media platforms to keep up to date with where we are, what we're doing, what kind of stuff we're getting up to. And yeah, I will see some of you maybe later tonight to play some Helldivers. Izzy, thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for the insight. This was a great conversation. I think it was absolutely fantastic. I hope you had a great time. And yeah, thank you again so much. This was fantastic. And to all of our viewers, we're heading out. Have a wonderful rest of your day. Happy streaming. We'll catch y'all later. Good night, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Sigue ahí, sigue solo.